that's really just a nice, polite way of saying shut the fuck up and blow me.
Next time, give it loud everybody for Anthony Eugenio. We're gonna have next time. Very funny. Wayne Russell, everybody.
Welcome to the Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne podcast.
Why, hello, everybody, and welcome to an Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne. I'm here tonight with my co-host Wayne. We all know who gives a shit about him. But we have a very special guest. One that we've been trying to get on for the very beginning. The amazing, the talented Xtina. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing really good. Really excited for this to finally happen. Excited to have you on. We have a lot of topics to go over with you. Yeah. Anthony, do you want to introduce our third host or no?
Yeah, I'm saddled down today with Cunty McShitballs here. He's named him after my grandfather. And he spends his days
family name. I love
making me
family
late for
name.
stuff. Yeah, definitely. That's my deepest family name, McShitballs.
Awesome.
Comes from Portugal.
So I guess we'll get right into the thick of it. So, Xtina, first of all, I want to know, how did you come up with that name or get that name?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I didn't realize when I had adopted it kind of back in the day that it was kind of sounds like I have a rap name. And I'm definitely not that cool. I'm not cool enough to have a rap name like that. No, I got it literally just from Christina Aguilera. There's very few famous Christinas out there, right? I think there's maybe like 2 or 3. So, and they're all pretty great. But Christina Aguilera was that was very exciting for me, for a pop star to come out. I was 9 or 10 when she came out. And then she, as famously, we all know, she went dirty, right? And that was when she became Xtina. But no, it was in college when like a few people started calling me that. And then I had a couple friends that would just either call me Tina or call me X or whatever. And it just kind of stuck. And so when I started doing comedy, it had been a while since anybody had ever called me that. And I thought it'd be fun to just bring that back.
It is brilliant. It's definitely, even if you don't know who you are, you recognize the name on a list or on a poster or something. So, yeah, that's awesome. I was really curious about that because even before we officially met, I knew who you were because of the name. So very, very clever.
Yeah, and it's convenient how easy it is to, there's nobody else on Instagram locally, right? So I think when people search for me on Instagram and they use Xtina, I'm probably the first one to come up. So that's also, that's convenient.
Yeah, it's awesome. How long have you been doing comedy?
About 9 months. Yeah.
That's it?
So the amount of, I guess, a pregnancy worth of time, but I don't think I've, technically given birth to my true form yet, right? I don't think I've fully found my own voice, but yeah, I think I started back in December of 2022, so still pretty fresh.
Damn, I would not have guessed that. I would have figured at least a couple of years. You just like,
I appreciate that.
You're so comfortable up there. Your jokes are awesome. Like, it's just like you just didn't strike me as 9 months. That's I thought you were a lot further along than that.
Thanks, I really appreciate that. No, I think that's the one thing I hate, kind of praising myself or talking myself up, but that was something that I noticed right off the bat, was that I did feel really comfortable up there. The first open mic that I ever did was at the Worthen in downtown Lowell. It's an all arts open mic, right? So there's singer-songwriters there are poets there, other comedians. And I saw, a friend, well, at the time, a friend of mine, Nick, right? Nick Powell, do comedy there. And I was like, this fucking guy can do it. I could probably do this too. Yep. But it was great. And like the first time I went up there, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I had, I had some stuff written down. For years, I've written down bits just in the notes on my phone. And So finally, I thought, why not bring this to light? Why not actually try this out? Give this a go. And pretty quickly, I became addicted to it. Pretty quickly, I wanted to keep going up and just keep going. And I very quickly learned that I needed punchlines, right? Still working on that part of it, because I think a lot of what I'm doing is a lot of setups. I have a ton of setups, but things seem to just get a little more difficult when I'm trying to figure out what an actual punchline is going to be, because I want things to hit.
What was like the first joke you were working on that you ended up like going, I want to do this now? What brought it to the stage?
I would say my Elvis joke. It's very quick. I don't know if you guys know it. It's just, first I had a huge setup for it, but I've since really pared it down. And so now it's just, have you ever heard of the Elvis song, A Little Less Conversation, A Little More Action? It's a real bop. It's a good time. If you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. But, that's really just a nice, polite way of saying, shut the fuck up and blow me. So that was like the first real, like, oh, I have a setup, I have a punchline, here it is, I'm getting laughs. And so that was the thing that I was like, and it was always something that I was closing on. Honestly, I'm still closing on that. If I feel myself falling flat, I'm like, oh, this isn't going that well. I'm like, fuck it, Elvis jokes. Just pull that out of my back pocket, and someone's gonna chuckle. I'm gonna get something, and at least I can end on somewhat of a high note, even though the rest of it might have been shitty.
I think the B-side on that song was "Shut Your Fucking Mouth and Get in the Car." I think that's what he had on the other side of that album. It was pretty good.
that might be the case as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Damn. So were you a fan of comedy before you went and watched Nick do it and said, I can do this? Or
Yes. I was raised on comedy. My family we were always watching Saturday Night Live when I was a kid. Always. No matter how inappropriate, 6, 7, 8 years old, we're watching SNL. And we were watching old episodes of SNL. And then by the time I was 8 or 9, we're watching Monty Python all the time. And we, that was probably around when like DVDs started happening. And I don't know if you were familiar with the best of DVDs for Saturday Night Live. So they pick a cast member, like a past cast member, Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan, Jimmy Fallon, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, all of those guys. And so I had all of those best of DVDs, and I would just watch them to death. And they had on E, they played reruns, like pared down reruns of old SNL episodes. Would watch those all the time. So and then started to watch stand-up comedy. Dane Cook was probably like the first stand-up comic that I was super into. I think I was 14 or 15, and my parents dropped me and my cousin off at the Garden to see Dane Cook Vicious Circle, and that was like, it killed me. I loved it. I loved that shit. Stephen Lynch. I don't know if you guys know Stephen Lynch. So it was all of those things. Then of course I'm watching Comedy Central constantly. I'm watching Mad TV, and even as a 12-year-old, I'm watching Mad TV, knowing that the cast members of Mad TV, they wish that they were on SNL. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, that was like the consolation prize. Aside from Keegan-Michael Key, who is like now crushing, but yeah. So like, I've always watched comedy. It's always been in my family. That's just always something that was a huge part of our life. So that's kind of where I started thinking about what it would be like to be a comedian. There was like this period of time where I was like, oh, I could totally come up with some sketches, some characters. I want to be on SNL. Watching Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon was 19 when he got on SNL, and that was always impressive to me. Seeing like people that were just super young being on SNL. So that was something that I always aspired to.
Our interests are really close. Like myself, you'll get used to this. Me and Wayne always start a question at the same exact time, and then one of us will trail off. It's usually me. I'm very bad at the jumping.
Nice.
I find it.
I'm honored.
Yeah, definitely. You'll be right in the middle of it. We'll be fighting in the middle about mashed potatoes around the dinner table. One of us will strike each other first. Usually me strike him, and then we'll go from there. It's pretty good.
Nice.
See, Wayne knows over there. He's like tear in his eye. Okay, so
That's why I wear the
Dane
hat,
Cook.
so
I wanted
the
to
shadow.
exactly. Yeah, I call him Raccoon Eye for good reason. Wayne, shut your mouth and get in the car. A little less conversation, a little more action. So I found it very interesting that Dane Cook is, I would say, it's got to be one of the most top 10 hated comics, but at the same time, I don't know how many more people have influenced more comics to start doing comedy than him in our age bracket. It's got to be like a lot of us. So we do owe that guy quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's not even necessarily like the jokes themselves, right? The writing of his jokes. I think a lot of it has to do with his cadence, his delivery, his energy, right? If I'm 12 years old, and it can take a lot to hold a 12-year-old's attention, and so for he was just like boom, 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 like back to back, so many jokes per minute. Just not even what he was saying, but the way he was saying it, and I think that was a lot of it to me. Was just the idea that you could say something so simple sometimes and have it really hit so hard, like almost like this kind of like rock star mentality, if you know what I mean. And I think it is flashy, right? We like flashy, and that definitely attracts us. And then it wasn't until later that I'm looking back and I'm like, oh yeah, there are way better comics, right? And you learn and you develop, I guess, just a more diverse palette. So yeah, but it makes sense that you would start with Dane Cook.
He's great comedy fast food, though. That's for goddamn sure.
Oh yeah. Xtina, I know you and Nick were both on Jacques Lambert's podcast, Carnival Personnel. Excellent episode, by the way. You guys did awesome.
Thank you.
Did you listen to his episode with Steve Bjork?
No, I have not listened to that one yet.
Go back and listen to it. It's awesome. He actually talks about Dane Cook before Dane got famous. I'm pretty sure it was Steve that mentioned it, but he was saying that the first time Dane Cook got on stage, he was Dane Cook. There was like no learning curve. It wasn't coming into his persona. He got on stage and he was like, "This is who I am," and that's super incredible to me that somebody can just hop into it and just do that. Be Dane Cook.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. And that's something that, I'm learning right now as someone that's still so new to this, right? I've been doing this less than a year, and I'm very aware of the fact that I'm still trying to figure out my voice on stage. And, when I'm having conversations with friends, right, I'm talking to these other comics. I mean, I hang out with Nick. Fredo Cruz is his roommate. We're always hanging out with Casey Woods. We're always just doing bits constantly when we're just hanging out together. And it's in those moments and moments in the past where I was talking to my friends where that's where I was inspired to want to be a stand-up comic. And I keep reminding myself now that it's those moments that's what I want to reflect on and kind of mirror when I'm on stage, right? Because sometimes I can feel myself kind of trying to fill a role when I'm on stage, when the reality is I should just be myself more. And I think that would just be, it would feel more natural, one, and I think it would just help me find my voice more. Because right now I feel like I'm kind of trying to write in a way that is maybe kind of being something other or something else. But I think, all of this is going to take time, right? I mean, not all of us can be Dane Cook, right, and just be that person on stage immediately. But I do think that I do think that we see some people that are like that already when we're at open mics, and I think some people, I'm so impressed. I mean, like Connor Ferguson, right? I think that he's somebody that whenever I see him on stage, he's comfortable. He looks comfortable on stage, but when I talk to him off stage, that's still him. And I think that's always really impressive to me, that someone can be that, and to be that young. I mean, oh Lord, to be so young again, right? No, but I think that that's really impressive, that people can just be themselves.
That's a fantastic point, by the way, that I've never heard. We like to talk about the technical side of comedy on some of our episodes, and I've always wondered when a comic is like, oh, well, it takes like a year to find your voice in comedy. And every time I hear that, I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? How am I going to know when I found my voice? Or it's like fucking, chicken and the egg. Where does it come from? And I've never heard that explanation that's so simple and so good, which is like, how do you bullshit with your friends? That's probably your voice, so you should write a little lean towards that when you're writing your comedy. So, thank you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you have to write. Yeah, that's true. You have to be yourself, right? You have to write the jokes and tell the jokes that you find funny, that come from your own whatever. Like for instance, probably I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I went up to Anthony's neck of the woods. We went to Portland, Field Notes. And as a writing exercise, I wanted to kind of write like a Seinfeld-esque joke. So I wrote this joke all about how health is about shakes, where, you find out you're fat because you're brushing your teeth and your stomach shakes. And then you decide you're going to get healthy and you stop drinking and you get the shakes. And then you really want to get healthy and exercise so you get the shake weights. And I did this whole thing, tried to play on words. It just didn't work for me. But then I started talking about sucking dicks. Let's go.
You gotta be yourself.
Yeah, you have to be true to yourself.
You got to talk about what you know, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talk about it. He did. Jesus Christ. He started running. I just started running. That was definitely Wayne when it came to dick sucking.
Oh man.
So when was your first when did you start doing book shows? Because me and Wayne are on I would say the precipice right now where we're trying to get on showcases and do stuff like that. And we're always interested at the comics that we see doing a lot of showcases. What was your first one? How'd you start getting into it? That type of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I got to be honest, I think I got really lucky right off the bat. I think what you guys were saying about me being comfortable on stage, I think that kind of can trump a lot of things. Even the fact that I didn't have a ton of punchlines, right? I also think it helps being a woman. I think people are looking for women to be on stage. Not trying to downplay what I've done or if I'm funny or not, but I think that helps. But I think right off the bat, Greg Bogus, right? He's the host of the Luna shows. I've known him for years, and I've talked to him, before the pandemic. I had gone to a bunch of Luna shows. That was back when it was Mondo Monday, right? They were on Mondays back then. And so I would go to them all the time, have a great time, talk to Greg Bogus afterward. And it was not even really a thought that I was going to do comedy, but just in my conversations with him, he was saying that he would love to see more women doing comedy. He would love to see me do comedy. And then it wasn't until I started doing comedy for the first time this past year that I reconnected with him. And because some of the people that I was meeting, all these other stand-up comics were starting to do these Luna shows. And so I started talking to him again and was doing open mics. I let him know I was doing open mics, and he said, hey, do you want a spot? And so that was April 27th. And so he asked me to do that. He asked me to do it in February. I said, yes, of course. I was so excited. I can't believe this. I'm finally going to be on a show that my name is going to be written somewhere. This is incredible. And then I got the comedy game show that Freddie hosts. And because I had gone to one before, I talked to him after the show. I was like, hey, I'm a stand-up comic. He's like, do you want to be on the next one? Great. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe now I have 2 in April. And then I got one that Katie hosted at Concept 6. And that was March 29th. And that was an all-female show. And to be honest, again, I would think she was just looking for another female comic. But so to have those 3 shows within 1 month that are booked, I think I just got very lucky, right? And then we had, me and Nick produced our show at Taffeta. So May, I didn't really do much of anything. And to be honest, I haven't really done many book shows since then. And we have our next show in September, of course. But like I said, I think I just got really lucky, like right off the bat. And I think that, honestly, I think once fall comes around and I'm back in the swing of things again, because summer I've just been trying to relax a little bit. But I'm excited to try to get on more shows. That is something that I'm trying to do. But like I said, I think a lot of it is just pure luck.
Oh, it's skill too, for sure, because me and Wayne sometimes go to book shows and we'll go to the people afterwards, and they don't say that to us. We're like, hey, we're stand-up comedians. And they're like, you should fucking stop doing that, probably, based on your face and demeanor. Yeah, probably.
Well, I lucked out. Have you ever met Mike Katrobis?
I don't think so.
So he has Mic'd Up Comedy. That's his production company. So he does a lot of book shows and this and that. And I took a class with him on hosting shows. It was an awesome class. I think it was like $75. It was 3 hours. He went over how to host, the do's and don'ts. We all got to practice, and he would throw in whatever I've talked about on the show. But at the end of that, we got to do a showcase at Wicked Funny with an actual crowd. There was probably 60 or 70 people. That was my first. It wasn't really booked. It was just part of the night. But that was a whole different experience that mirrored the first time I got on stage on an open mic in terms of excitement and how different it was. And I got the bug for like chasing that now too. Like I love going to open mics and stuff, but that's a whole different animal. That's a lot of fun.
I love the way Wayne describes it, because he's like, you were saying a story where you're like, yeah, I got really lucky. I went to the bar and Channing Tatum was there and we just got it on. It was fantastic. He took me home. It was a great time. And Wayne's like, I have the exact same story. I paid a prostitute $75 and I also got to have sex with her. The exact same thing.
No, but but again, what was I saying about like being a woman? Like that's the difference, right? I can just maybe show up at a bar and Channing Tatum might be there, and I might get lucky. But like, a dude is gonna have to work a little harder or pay for it. No, but for real, like, I do think that there's something to be said about being a woman. I think people want to see more women doing it. There aren't enough women doing it. But again, we're talking chicken and egg situation. How do you get more women involved? Unless you show them that more women are involved, that women are doing it, that there's examples out there for them. It's tough. It's a tough scenario for sure.
I want to get back to Greg Bogus at some point, but you're touching on a topic I wanted to ask you about. Being a woman in stand-up comedy. Your jokes are so good, and I respect them so much, because you don't lean too heavily into the promiscuousness. Like it. So I remember growing up, I also would watch. You all right?
Oh, sorry. You're like, you're not a whore.
Listen, just because I don't talk about it on stage, so but anyway.
Well, since he popped that cherry, that's kind of where I was going with this. Where, like, this is like a stereotype that's pretty popular. I guess not popular, but like I talk to a lot of people at work and stuff. There's a lot of female comics that are very popular, like Lisa Lampanelli and Amy Schumer did it for a while, and there's just a lot that lean into the I like dick, I like having sex, I'm a whore, I like that kind of thing, and they get a lot of laughs because whatever, it's funny. But what I appreciate about you is, I mean, maybe you have some jokes like that. I don't think I've ever heard of them, but most of the stuff I ever hear from you is not that. It's it's very respectful material that. And not that I'm against that kind of material, but I appreciate the fact that you take the time to write something that's not that, and you're becoming very successful at that. So I guess my question is, how do you feel that plays a role in how you're viewed coming up?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, going back to trying to find my voice and feeling comfortable on stage, I think I'm most comfortable just talking about real things. I don't. Nothing I say is made up. Mm-hmm. like there might be like I mean I have my Adderall shortage joke that now I've tweaked at the end that isn't quite exactly how it is, right? But for the most part, I'm just talking about shit in my life. And that's another thing that a big catalyst that pushed me toward wanting to do this was at the end of last year, my life was kind of blowing up in a pretty catastrophic way, and kind of continued up until about March, and even continue. No, honestly, it went until about early April too. But it kind of seemed like shit just kept coming. Like the universe was just throwing shit at me, and so like I found that that talking about that shit on stage in a very real way, just it made me feel better. And also I realized how funny it is, how fucking ridiculous some of this was. I'm like, there's no way. And I was like, I'm not going to let myself get down on all this shit that's happening. Whether it's breaking up with my ex because he, decided to start smoking crack, or, my car breaking down right when I moved into a new apartment. I have no money, and then I get COVID, and then I get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It's just like, I could have just let that shit really fuck me up. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to like share this. Like, there's a lot going on here, and I'm sure a lot of other people have a lot of fucking bullshit going on in their lives, and they want to hear this. And in a way that's funny, in a way that's not me feeling bad for myself, but it's a way of kind of letting it out and sharing with people, and not in a way that makes people necessarily feel uncomfortable, but in a way that's just like, no, this is just fucking real. The universe is fucked up and it's crazy and it just throws shit at you, and it's all about how you deal with it. So I do have one joke about contracting chlamydia after I broke up with my ex. So there was a little bit of that going on too, but overall, I don't think it was. I don't think there was ever like a conscious decision, right, to write jokes the way I do. I think it's more, this is what's going on in my life, and that's what I want to talk about. And there might be a little bit of like sex sprinkled in there, but it's kind of never like the center of attention. It's never really the focus for me.
Mm-hmm.
To echo Wayne's point of why you're good, I feel the same way. Like everything that you mentioned of bad shit that just happened to you, I think I've heard you do a joke about that's been very good. And I think it's like, it's a dichotomy that men go through as well, and it's almost the same. We both talk about dicks in the beginning. But it's the low-hanging fruit aspect of the joke. Like if you see a comic up there and he does 5 straight minutes on sucking dicks or something like that, you're in the beginning, that is a very common new comic trope, because it's like dick is the low-hanging fruit of the funny world. It just happens to be a dangling parcel of fucking very easy comedy in the beginning. And I think sometimes unfairly women get the same type of problem, because when they're writing comedy in the beginning and you say suck a dick somewhere in it, it's an easy laugh. And I echo Wayne's praise when I say, like, you never thought about that when you're doing it. You could tell you're just thinking about something real that happened to you that you do, which I respect that every story that you do is real as well. I tried to do that for the first, 6 months that we're doing, and now for the first time, I'm like, I'm going to write a story joke that didn't happen at all. Like just a story that I'm more structuring a joke. Like right now, I'm writing a joke about seeing a hand sign language interpreter at a concert, and it fucking me all up at the concert. And the concert that I created for that joke, I saw a hand sign language interpreter doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes for my son, and it fucked me all up, because I'm like, just do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Why are you complicating that even farther? But I'm going to do it now for Los Del Rios, the band that sang the Macarena. And it didn't happen at all, but I'm excited to try to make... Like, we're salesmen. We're selling jokes. I want to try to sell a joke that is not like I'm pulling my salesman tips from personal experience. I want to try to craft one for the masses. But enough about me and my boring Macarena jokes. Wayne has a question.
So I guess going back to Greg Bogus, before we lose that train of thought, So you said your first time up there was April 27th?
27th.
Yeah. So what was that like? So the thing I like about that, so I went there for the first time. I Jacques told me he was going, and I was like, I'm gonna come along, and I went, hung out with Jacques and Joe, and we got to watch Steve Bjork and Tony V, Lauren Sims, and two other people, maybe three other people. I can't remember their names, but it was an awesome time. I think I don't know, it was a $15 ticket for one of the comfy seats, and that was awesome. I'm definitely gonna go back. I love that place. That was great. But what was it like actually performing there? Who was the headliner there? How was it hanging out with the other comics? Like, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it was Mike Donovan. I don't know if
No
you're
shit.
familiar with. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was incredible. But the experience of it was intense. It was the anticipation was palpable simply because I had been to that show so many times in the past, and had been there going for years, really, and just finally being able to do it felt really incredible. And this thing happened where I told some people at work that so this is something you have to know about me. I'm a project coordinator at an engineering firm, and I love my job. I love my job. I love my company, and everyone's incredible. It's a company right here in Lowell, and I told a few people, and it turns out that and it was also the day before my birthday was the show. My birthday is the 28th of April. This is the 27th, and so I told some people at work. They decided to get together and organize a bunch of them to buy a bunch of tickets. So about 25 of my coworkers came to the show.
Wow.
And yeah, and they surprised me. I knew like maybe a couple were coming, and they were like, I left work just a little bit early to go home, just get ready and whatever, and they were like, oh, there's a few of us going, and I was like, oh, awesome. And they're like, maybe more than a few, and then I get there and all of a sudden I'm looking down the hallway and it's just like 25 of my coworkers and a few of their significant others coming toward me down the hallway, and I was like, oh no. Oh man, this is crazy. But it turned out to be incredible. They were great in the audience too, because I went up, I think I was the second or third comic to go up, and they stayed the entire time. They had an incredible time. They loved it. They were a great audience. It made me so proud to have brought that many people to the show, and for them to all then come up to me after, and then even at work the next day, some of them coming up to me and just saying, that was incredible. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you could do that. Even though, I mean, I am the funniest person in the office. Let's get real. But I know, but no, it was really kind of like validating, and it was cool for my coworkers to see that side of me too, and for Greg Bogus to also tell me that I did a great job, right? A guy that's been doing this for how many years, who I've been looking up to, and to be on the same show as Mike Donovan, like, that's insane to me. That's like, what an incredible thing. I've been doing it for almost 5 months, like less than 6 months I've been doing stand-up comedy, and I get to do this show with Mike Donovan. There's nothing better than that, really. And
Is
I
it
really
10-minute or 15-minute
more.
set that you did?
Oh, he gave me, it was 8. I had 8.
8 minutes? Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a perfect amount of time. About 5-6 minutes in, I'm sure that you had some, that was your tight 8. You should say, right, at that point.
Yeah, it was a little scary, because I think the first show that I did, because when I did the comedy game show, that was 5 minutes, and then when I did the concept of the comedy one at the female comic one at Concept 6, that was, I think, 6 minutes. That one also, the headliner was Colleen McCauley on the Concept 6 one. So just like within such a short amount of time to be doing shows with people that are, seasoned veterans of this is just phenomenal. That's what I'm saying when I say that I'm lucky. to be doing what I'm doing and to have been so just such a freshman in all of this, and to be able to be on a show with these people is amazing.
And you're going back the 28th, right? Of this
That's
month?
correct. Yes,
And
yeah. He had asked me to come
Carolyn
back.
Plummer?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
So funny thing about Carolyn Plummer, living in Pepperell, I live over by I'm near the big town park or whatever, near the schools. I took my son over there, and we're walking into the park, and I look over, and there's like this sandwich board, and it just says comedy night, and there's a bunch of names I don't know, but there's Carolyn Plummer. And before I knew who she was, I was like, I don't know, for some reason that name stuck out to me, and then I realized like she's who she is, and that thing's just always there. I don't know how old it is, but it's pretty weathered. It's been there forever. It's kind of an interesting thing being able to walk by and like, oh, okay, I kind of understand.
Well, I feel like there's like I feel like there's probably a lot of things in Pepperell that have just been like sitting there and weathered forever, right? I think that's kind of
the population for the most part.
Yeah, that's kind of the nature of that community, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. So, in addition to the 28th, you also have your second Taffeta show, Electric Boogaloo, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Lowell last to Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. That is the Friday the 22nd, 8 p.m. We're very excited. We're like blessed to have such an incredible lineup. Of course, I think that has a lot to do with the success of the first show. Mm-hmm. We had over 100 people at that show, which is just, it blew our minds. We did not expect that many people to be there. And I think, I attribute that not only to, the work that me and Nick put into promoting it and just spreading the word about it, but also the folks at Taffeta. Sean Gannon is one of the organizers there at Taffeta, and that place, they really put the time and the money and the effort into promoting and giving us a great experience, just so accommodating and just really making us feel like we are an actual act, right? All the shows that I'd done before that this one there's an actual green room, right? Because they are technically a music venue first and foremost, so they have like this really beautiful green room for the performers to hang out in beforehand, that has a bathroom and a shower, right? And I think that's there in case you shit yourself before you go on stage, so you can rinse yourself off first. I think that's really important. But and then I was just really excited about the fact that there was like a Keurig, right? I'm like, oh man, I can make coffee. This is really great. Like I've made it, but it was incredible. And I think this time we're very excited about the lineup. We got some feedback last time that just from people in the audience and people talking to us afterward that they wanted more. They wanted it to be a little longer. So we've given folks just like a little bit more time this time. Mm-hmm. We're going to have like a little more freedom. We're not going to be so like, flashing the light at 1 minute and, all of that stuff. So we're kind of going to be a little more free flowing with that. But our lineup's incredible. We have Andrew Ballestieri as our headliner. I don't know if you guys have seen him perform before, but he's very funny, very quick. I believe he has a special on YouTube, self-produced. That's very, very, very funny. Carolina Montesquieu, you guys have probably seen her.
I just saw her on Monday at One Broadway Collaborative.
She's fabulous. She is a true professional. She's getting booked like 4 or 5 shows a week kind of thing. Like she's working, right? She booked and blessed, as they would say. And then we have Sam Mangano, also very, very funny. Love his style, love his cadence. He's a little more like relaxed in comparison to like Carolina Montesquieu and Andrew Ballestieri, who are a little more bombastic. So we love like that kind of mix. Ren Marquez, right? Of course, we love Ren, host of the infamous Bomb Shelter, arguably one of the best open mics that we have here in Massachusetts, I would say. And Connor Ferguson, right? We also have his Steve from Blue's Clues. I don't know if you guys
we were there for that.
We talk about Connor all the time. Yeah, because not it's the Steve from Bluecoos thing is fine, but it's more that he will go up every time that I've seen him and be. I don't want to call him a completely different comic every time, but almost like a completely but in a good way. Like it's always fresh, it's always different, and I'm always like, ah, God, like I'm gonna go up there and I'm going to literally massage the 18th dick joke I can into something not completely terrible. And I'm like, okay, just don't walk in a complete circle. If you shit your pants, don't make eye contact with Xtina. Make sure that she knows you shit your pants, but she can't confirm you've shit your pants because you're not like, eye confirming it. Just let it happen. So that's all I'm thinking about. And
I do have a
Connor's,
sixth sense. I'll know.
Yeah, that's. I mean, as
Yeah.
long as, like, if I make eye contact with you as I'm shitting myself, I feel like everybody else will know. Like, you can. I don't care. Just tell me afterwards that you were offended by it, and I'll shit myself a little differently next time. But I'm gonna shit myself. That's how it goes. But as I was saying, as I was shitting myself again, is Connor doesn't seem to have. Connor's more like, how do I make this a. Like, he went up with a guitar and a harmonica once, and the whole bit was he wasn't going to play the guitar and harmonica, the Stephen Blues
I
School
love
stuff.
that bit.
Yeah, I love it. Almost everything he does is hilarious. So he's great. He hosted yesterday the bomb shelter that I went to, and he was a great host too, which was awesome. He had callbacks for everybody. So yeah, we're gonna say Connor's great again. And so you guys out there, you pieces of shit that are listening to this, go to this show. It has Electric Boogaloo in it, which only the best sequels in movie history have had in their title, obviously. It has the best comics in our area. And it's more, what I really like about the show that you guys do is you guys don't suck asshole. Like, meaning, I've seen a lot of booked shows where I see the comic on there and I'm like, oh, you're doing this because you're horrible, and this is the only way for you to get on a show. I get it. All right, that makes sense. I plan to be that kind of person myself.
That is why. That's one big reason why. Well, I mean, the big reason why I did the show in the first place, the first one back in June, is because it was April. I was riding high, right, on the luck that I was just talking about earlier of getting booked on these shows, and I was like, I can do this. I'd seen some other, produced shows. I'm like, I can definitely do this. And I reached out to Taffeta, just whatever generic info at taffetamusic.com on their website, and just said, hey, would you be interested in doing a comedy show? And that night, I got a response. The next morning, I'm on the phone with Sean from Taffeta. Like, it was just like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, hey, I have comics. I know people. Like, we can do this. These people are hilarious. It's going to be a really great time. I know we can put butts in seats. I wasn't sure if we could at the time, but I was like, I can sell myself that I can. And luckily we did. And then, of course, I reached back out after our first show, and they were thrilled with the number of people that were there, as were we. And at first they thought, they asked if we wanted to do it every month. And we said, let's do it. Let's try this every 3 months to start. Let's start.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's not the hardest thing to put together that I've ever done. I've had many jobs where I've planned really big events for big companies and things like that. But it is work, right? And so, and I also I want to make sure that it's a well curated show, that we're getting the people that are truly going to make people laugh. We want a good variety of people, different styles of comedy, and I think that in order to do that every month is a huge ask, I think. And so once we kind of have this method of, all right, how do we ask people to do it? How do we set it up? What order do we want? Once we kind of have this well-oiled machine, sure, maybe we could do it every other month. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's shows happening constantly. There's always shows. The market is saturated with shows. And so if we can put on this kind of really big special show every 3 months, that's better than putting on like a mediocre show every month.
Yeah, the problem when you have all those shows, every month and you're seeing the same people, it's like how long before those comics get seen by the same people over and over, and they're doing so many of these shows, they're not working out new material, so they're saying the same jokes A, B, and C every month, and people start getting tired of seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was the other thing too, is, I knew I was going to be on it because, that's a big reason why I wanted to organize shows, is so that I can get more stage time too, right? Maybe make a little bit of money, right? All the things that we want to do as stand-up comics, right? These are the things that we're trying to work toward, right? Being able to do this often, being able to get on stage and hopefully eventually make a little bit of money doing it.
Yeah.
But I think that, just knowing myself and the amount of time that I can put in, as someone that I have a full-time job, a career that I'm very dedicated to, right? I really love what I do as my regular day job. I just know that I don't want to sell people short, right? I don't want to have a show where, at this next Taffeta show, I'm not doing a single joke that I did at the last one. Right.
Yep.
And I know that it's going to take me time to work all of that out in the interim. So, and again, we want to make sure that we're getting all new people. And so it just makes more sense to spread them out, because I think people we're kind of drowning in shows. They're everywhere. They're all the time. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because there are also a ton of comics out there right now. Right. There's a lot of us doing this right now. And so, when I'm on my Instagram feed and I'm going through stories, it's like showcase after showcase after showcase. And it's not necessarily always the same people. I'm seeing it I feel like a rotation of about 50 comics, right? That are just doing shows all the time. So there's definitely plenty for people to watch, but I think you're right, Wayne, right? We don't want people to kind of only be seeing the same people over and over again. We want to be able to reach new audiences and to show the same audiences some new shit.
Yeah, I think that's a solid model.
Yeah, you're doing it the Goodwill Hunting style. You guys are going out there, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, making your own movie, and it's actually good. It's not about a retarded janitor, but it's getting there. Nick looks like a retarded janitor, right? Is that?
I would say I think I'm the one. I might have kind of been the catalyst to kick off the show, but I think at this point I'm kind of the Ben Affleck, because I'll be honest, Nick is Matt Damon doing most of the work right now. I'll be honest with you, and I'm really impressed with the work that he's putting into it. Right now he's putting together bios for everybody, so that we can kind of start releasing bios on social media of each of the comics. We want them to be funny, fun, interesting, get people kind of hooked on who we are before they show up to the show and that kind of thing. And yeah.
You need to make sure you send me those when you do. I'll be sure to share them. I try to share everything I can, make sure everybody is as successful as they can be. So make sure
also,
you,
if you... Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Yeah, you better be.
Guys, don't fight, no.
No, just make sure you send them my way so I can share them, and I'll put them on our, I have my own Instagram. We have a podcast Instagram, Twitter.
You just said the same sentence twice. I interrupted you and I felt bad. I said sorry, and then you said the same sentence again. You said, make sure you send it to me. I'll put it on the social media. I jump in, and then you keep talking. I go, oh, sorry. And then you go, make sure you send it to me because I have social media. Why? Why do we go down this road, Wayne?
It's kind of like when you have a heckler and you have to restart your joke because somebody won't stop talking.
Yeah,
okay. Now do another sentence that's different than that one, you piece of shit.
So make sure you send them to me because I have a Twitter.
Oh God! Wait, what? Sorry. What social media platforms are you on again? Could you just go down the list? Okay, we got.
It's mainly Threads and MySpace.
Oh, sick. Okay, cool.
You're just gonna make the beating I give you far worse when we get off this thing, Wayne.
You beat him off. That's a little okay. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. Well, first is the beating off, and then there's the actual beating. We have a weird dynamic, but it works. I was gonna say before Wayne said the same sentence 3 times, If you guys, I'm sure you've noticed that the best thing about this podcast by 10 miles is the YouTube thumbnail that we have every time. It's so beautiful and artistic and wonderful. Well, that's me. That's what I do, because I own companies and I do the marketing for them. So if you guys need any graphics for your shows or anything like that, just text me and I will send you guys, like, you know, I'll make you jump a shark in Happy Days if you want. I got that ability. Could do that. So anything you
That's
need,
impressive.
let me know.
That's really impressive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what Nick's been using to put these things together, but I was impressed. He came up with that shit as soon as we started planning Taffeta. He already like had that shit queued up, and I was like,
He made those
damn,
flyers?
okay. What's that?
He made those flyers?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good job, Nick.
They are great flyers.
I
Yeah.
like those.
Yeah.
The first one you did, a guy in my office actually pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, do you know about this?" And at the time, I had not seen any of the flyers for the first Lowell Laughs, but he found it, and I was very impressed by the flyer. It's good.
You know what's great, and this is like totally not on the same topic, but I was just thinking about the fact that a bunch of my coworkers not only went to the Luna Theater show, but they also came to my Taffeta show, and some of those folks, I swear, are still quoting some of Fredo's jokes to this day. It's fabulous. I was just like, this is what I love this. This is why I do this. This is fun, fabulous.
That is a really cool feeling when people that are not in the comedy community start becoming familiar and, like you said, quoting people that you know, and you're like, yeah, that's my friend, or like that's that's really cool. I'm kind of like a shameless person when it comes to my stuff. I record everything, and when I first started, I'd always send it to my coworkers and some of them, and be like, "Hey, check this out! Look what I did!" Because they're just really proud of it. And not that it was good. I was just proud that I actually got on stage. But one of the coolest things that ever happened to me was I was sitting at my desk, and I hear one of my jokes being spoken verbatim.
Oh
By
shit!
the guy behind me, and I turned around. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I was just telling Dennis my, your joke. I thought it was awesome." I'm like, "That's fucking awesome."
He missed the first half when they were right before, like, he caught them in the middle of saying his joke. He missed the beginning when they were like, "This stupid piece of shit keeps sending me his stand-up set."
Oh man, no, but it is true. It feels good, like you said, to be recognized outside of the comedy community, right? There was I don't know if I'm sure you guys know about Lowell Folk Fest, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're familiar. It's the second largest free folk fest in the country. It's huge. As someone that's from Lowell, it's basically our Christmas. We get so excited about it. The whole city is preparing, right? Because we know there's going to be an influx of people coming in. And me and Nick were out and about for Folk Fest, and two different sets of couples came up to us and said, "Hey, we recognize you guys from doing shows or from doing open mics or from this. You guys are really funny." And if I'm gonna, it warmed my heart. Like I was like, this is why I do this, because if I can make other people feel good, and then, like, again, being shameless, it feels good for people to recognize you, right? That's another reason why you want to do it. And let's also be honest, I love the fucking attention. Like, I love being on stage. I love people are looking at me. People are laughing at me. Sometimes they're silent, staring at me because I'm sucking, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same reason why I like doing karaoke. Like, I love that shit. I love being on stage. I love people, like, paying attention, making people feel good, right? And it's like all those selfish reasons why I'm here and doing this. And then it also just bleeds into, just making people laugh makes you feel good. That's it. That's why we're here.
What a fucking message for the podcast. I think we're getting towards the end of this motherfucker, and that, I think, it might be close to a perfect way to cut it. Wayne, what do you got? You always got something else. You got something else before we wrap this up?
I did have one last thing I wanted to ask.
They did.
Yeah.
True to form.
You did.
Anthony and I will be at the Burren on October 4th, and I know you just did it, and I know it wasn't quite the experience you were hoping for, but I was wondering if you had any tips.
Shut your mouth.
I heard you've lost.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, it was great. I actually had a really fabulous time. I was nervous as shit before I went up there, but once I was up there, I felt comfortable. The audience was great. It was a pretty full house, and people laughed. People laughed at everything I said. I felt comfortable doing it. I think I had like one weird, like I said one thing wrong in the middle or something, but like nothing crazy. And overall, it felt very good to be able to be there and to know that so many other people have done this before me, and I guess in terms of advice, I'd just say, I tried just picking the things that I know have worked, right? You're going to want to pick the things that you feel comfortable with, that have worked many times in the past. And I think that if you just stick to that, and I've been doing this thing where I'm like, I try to pick a couple of audience members that I kind of like go back and forth looking at, especially ones that are like really laughing, because that makes me feel good. And I think, you just want to have fun with it, right? You don't want to take that shit too seriously either. Because what is it, a $50 bill and a trophy? You're fine if you don't, But I also heard and have learned that like bookers do like to go to that show too, right? And you don't have to necessarily win in order to catch someone's attention. And I think that you really just want to focus on like making that audience laugh and don't really, you don't want to like think too much about the competition and be like, oh, this is my competition. I like thinking about it as if it's any other show, right? I'm gonna listen to these other performers, laugh my fucking ass off as I always do. I don't know if you guys know that, but I tend to laugh pretty loudly at everything. Nick,
we were going to say one of our favorite comics as a comic, but also our favorite audience member in the world is Xtina. If you're going to go up there, like you've sent Wayne down so many bad paths of jokes by how good your laughing is. Wayne would be, I'm like, Wayne, that joke sucks. And he'd be like, did you hear Xtina? She thought it was fucking really good. You fucking piece of shit. And then he'll do it for another like 8 weeks after that. So thank you.
Yeah. So no, Nick makes fun of me all the time because I'm kind of like this eternal optimist, which can, I'm sure, annoy the shit out of people. But like, I could literally, break down on the side of the road, and it's like, oh man, this is like the best breakdown I've ever had in my life. Or we go out to eat, and I'm just like, holy shit, that was the best fucking steak I've ever had. And and it's like, I don't think he takes my opinion seriously at all anymore. Because it never wavers. Everything's always great all the time. So
it's beautiful. I love the positivity. Man, every girl I've ever dated, everything I take them out to dinner. That was the worst dinner I ever had. I take them to a movie. That was the worst movie I've ever seen. I take off my pants. That's the worst penis I've ever seen. Why? Every time, every single one of them. That
last one.
I need to find my optimist. You think they're correlated?
But I just think. I think that ultimately, I've always just been a comedy fan. Like, even if something is fucking bombing, I'm just like, man, that's fucking hilarious how much that's bombing. Or, whatever. But do not...
That's all you guys should
know. But you guys should know right now, you cannot use me to take the temperature of your jokes. You just can't.
Now, we just mostly, in the end, on this, I'm going to say step quest for laughs now, so I don't fuck it up later. On the step quest quest laughs, we've learned in the end that all we give a shit about is proving the other one of us wrong about if a joke was good, and that's just all it fucking comes down to. So let's get this shit wrapped up and say that you guys need to go see Taffeta, the show Lowell Laughs 2 Electric Boogaloo, which is Friday, September 22nd, right? Did I say the date right and all that? Look at me. I'm high as fuck too, audience. Look at you motherfuckers. And also, if you guys want to go to the Luna, which me and Wayne should be there, that one is going to be on the 29th?
28th, I think.
28th.
Fuck! Yeah, on the 28th, go to Lowell, Mondo to see Xtina there. She'll be with Nick Powell, another friend of the show. I heard if you shave his beard and shine a tiki torch over it, the secrets to January 6th will come up in invisible ink. So you might want to see that live as well. So that will be pretty
He does
good.
have January 6th face, that's true.
Yeah, definitely does. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much for being on, Xtina. You've been great. And, yeah, that's another step in the blah, 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 blah. Bye. I think the B-side on that song was Shut Your Fucking Mouth and Get in the Car. I think that's what he had on the other side of that album. It was pretty good.